Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as usual, let's go over the market, let's go over Tesla, let's go over what has happened, what has transcribed for the week, because has been quite a brutal week, I have to say. Pretty much 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, pretty much the whole week has just been straight down. So yeah, that's that, I guess. But we'll talk about it, see, is there any potential, hopes for a bit of a bounce here, or are we just going straight down next week, or what's happening, what's the deal? We'll go over all that, at least my thoughts on it, right? So, of course, all that being said, as usual, if you guys enjoyed, please don't forget to hit that like button. It does help a lot. And, of course, I am not a financial advisor. Make your own decisions, do your own research. This is not financial advice. This is just purely for entertainment. But moving into a Tesla, looking like it's going to be ending the day in about 4 minutes, down. Oh, right now, not even down. I mean, pretty much flat, actually, compared to the market in this case. It's quite a blessing. But nonetheless, pretty much ending flat at pretty much about $173. So, pretty wild stuff. Tesla's definitely hanging on at a spot that we have, of course, bounced at before, right? Pretty much this line right here, you can see, we had some bounces here, we had some bounces and whatnot here again. We had a little bit of congestion, I guess, right here. And it seems like we're going to have it again once more, pretty much in more or less the exact same area once again. So I do actually believe that there is a decent chance that we get a bit of a bounce here still. I do think that this bounce that we had yesterday wasn't actually the one that I was really talking about, at least in hindsight, I guess. And I do think that there's a chance that we actually get that bounce up to this almost like 190 level from here. I actually think there is a pretty okay chance of that, which would be a rally of about almost 8% roughly. I do think there's an absolute real possibility of that. Now, I want to make it very clear, right? Again, this to me is just a short-term thing. I personally do not think that this downward movement is done yet. So whether we just go straight down from here, like, I want to make it very clear, it's still very possible that we go straight down from here next week as well. And there's essentially very little, if not even no bounces at all from here. That is absolutely a possibility, but there's also a possibility that we get a quick bounce first. But regardless, I want to make it very clear, I think that regardless of what happens, whether we get the bounce or we don't, I still believe that there is more downside remaining. I don't think it is done just yet. I don't think the pain is over at all. And I think that, there's still definitely more pain to come. Again, most likely, at this rate, I really wouldn't be surprised if we gap fill this 145 or at least get exceptionally close to it, maybe like 150, let's say, or something like that, right? That really wouldn't surprise me. And I really think there's a very, very damn good possibility we go down there. So, I just want to make that extremely clear right now. This area, even though it is an area that used to be, previous support, even a little bit of resistance here and there, it's not really a, I don't know, it's just, it could be like this 173 level, I guess, it could be a level to bounce. I would be genuinely shocked if this is just that's it, this is over, this is how far we go down, and now it's time to just rally up and forget about it, right, kind of thing. I would be like, man, I'd be very surprised if, let's just say that, if this is it, we just, this downturn is done, we just bounce from here, everyone, go to the moon, let's go, let's do it. It just doesn't seem like it's the play here. It doesn't seem like that's likely. The market, I think, might actually make things a little bit more difficult. Like, I think the market might make people think that. I really do, because it likes to do that. But I don't think this is it. I don't think this is the downturn being over just yet, right? So I want to make that very, very clear. So on top of that, I also believe, like I talked about the other day, right? We still have this potential. Let me remove these drawings for now, right? Here we go. Right, we still have this rounding top that you can make an argument for, right? In terms of how it actually looks, you can make an argument that it's something like this, right? You can make an argument for that being a cup and handle or even a rounding top. You can also make an argument that the rounding top was something like this instead, right? Where the drop down would essentially be this right here, right? So you take this from the break of this quote unquote neckline and it will go down that far, which is not too far from where we are right now. So it's dependent on which perspective you want to take a look at. But personally, the way I would look at this is essentially a cup and handle, inverted cup and handle, where essentially we would be doing something like this, right? Which is kind of where we're at right now, give or take. This is why I also wouldn't have been surprised if it actually came down to around 162-ish instead of only 168. But nonetheless, we came down to pretty much more or less this general area, this kind of base, or if you will, of this cup and handle, where we had the initial congestion before this little kind of rounding top where the inverted cup started to form. Essentially, we go from there, we come down to this area, then we make the handle, which will be most likely something like this, which I think is pretty much the potential for the bounce, which would essentially form the handle. And then I think from there, we most likely get the rejection, essentially making our way down even further. Not necessarily maybe that low, but that's just kind of the idea behind it. And the way you do it is you measure from the peak of the cup to the base of the cup, so somewhere like around here, let's say roughly, and then you measure it from, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, from where it breaks. So let's say we come up to like this 187, 190-ish level, you kind of measure it to where it would break, and then you can see that gives us actually a pretty much picture perfect level down exactly to this 145 level, which is this major gap fill that I'm sure a lot of people have their eyes on. It's also the Fibonacci retracement level that I talked about. I believe that's the 0.38, no, 618, I think it is, right? Yeah, the 618 level, which is all the way down here, which is pretty sweet. And things like that. So that's it makes sense to me, at least as of right now. The RSI on the daily still looks nothing too crazy. The weekly is pointing straight down. The weekly candle is quite damn, pretty bearish, right? Definitely finally showing which direction we're going from this congestion. You can see as we ran all the way up, there was a lot of congestion. The candles kind of got tighter, and now the major candle finally broke out, because you can make an argument the fact that we were inside this little congestion going like kind of like this, right? Making this little pennant, if you will. And then it could have went either way, right? It could have bounced up, it could have bounced down. In this case, it clearly went to the downside, and now this essentially means that the downtrend has begun. And it's very rare that this is the only downtrend we get. This is it, just this tiny little bit of a drop. No, usually you would expect a lot more than this, right? It's very uncommon for it to be just this, especially in the environment of the market that we are currently in, right? Which is not a very positive one, let's just say that. Now, so that's essentially the main thing I'm personally looking at as of right now, ladies and gentlemen, right? I have my puts sold, like my cash secured puts sold. I have about half of them ish sold at the very moment, and I will of course sell the rest, assuming we do come down to this level of around 150s. I will be selling them really aggressively around that level, because I do want them to fill ideally into shares, plus get that premium on top, which is the cherry on the cake. So that's personally what I'll be doing as of right now, right? But that's more or less kind of the gist of what I'm currently seeing, right? Again, I definitely think there's an absolutely real possibility of a bounce here. It looks like the bulls are stepping in a little bit here, right? The bears are potentially running a little bit out of steam. They might need a little bit of time to kind of, get their footing back in, if you will, if that makes sense. And I think that's what's going to give us this little bit of a rally, make the handle of the cup. You can also argue that this would be essentially just nothing more than a potential little mini bear flag, if you will, coming up to fruition here. Something like this, maybe just, as a rough example, something like this could be, right? Get a little bit of a bear flag action, and then most likely, kind of zigzag our way, and then most likely make our way back down, right? Also a very real possibility. Moving back to the daily though very quickly, let's take a look at the Bollinger Band. So remember I talked about not that long ago, quite recently actually, how we're getting extremely tight over here, right? The Bollinger Bands, remember I was saying that literally just I think earlier this week, maybe even Monday or something. I talked about how I was getting real, actually it was Monday or Friday. It was one of these two candles I talked about it. Might have been even Tuesday. Either way, it was pretty much right as it was getting tight right here. I was talking about how, every time it gets this tight, usually a big move is going to be following up pretty damn soon, and it doesn't stay this tight for very long. I'm sure people remember me saying that. Well, it seems like this move has finally begun, and clearly it's to the downside. So that's the big move that's finally coming to fruition, which again, shouldn't be too surprising if you've been following this channel, right? I've been calling for this move to come down to the downside for pretty much after this congestion period is done, there's a much more likely chance we go down than up, and clearly that is playing out. So that's does feel good to see that happen, and makes you feel good about your calls, right? Which is always a nice feeling. Moving along, we have the 100-day moving average, which we actually are below, believe it or not. We did closed right below it yesterday, came up to it today, got rejected, and actually did close below it. So we'll see how that actually comes in, and if that ends up being a major issue. We're also pretty much right at the 50-day moving average, so we're kind of between the two on the daily as of right now. And then the 5 and the 10, of course, we are well below those bad boys as well. So ultimately, it does feel like it is becoming an is going to continue the more bearish trend than a bullish trend. Though with that being said, like I said, there is a possibility for a bit of a bounce here, potentially a bear flag, potentially the handle in the inverted cup and handle, which is a bearish pattern, into more follow through to the downside. And I definitely don't think it's done whatsoever. And I would personally be looking for the quote unquote potential bottom of this downtrend to be somewhere around the 150, let's just say, to make it simple. And then I think from there, we can potentially look for the accumulation. But again, that's assuming the bullish trend holds. There's also a very real possibility it doesn't, and that it doesn't actually hold, and we get a pretty painful sell-off similar to what we had here. Across the whole market as a whole, the market's looking extremely not great right now, looking quite suspicious. A lot of people probably got baited here pretty hard, probably bought in thinking the market is just, everything's priced in, guys, we're chilling, guys, just buy the dip, back to all-time highs we go, guys. Probably got trapped here, and then yeah, that's kind of just what happens. Remember we talked about this candle on the SPY being a pretty damn bearish looking candle. It's like, just pretty textbook bearish looking candle. Well, I think we can see what happened after that, right? I did actually play puts on this. I exited way too early because I'm just very bad at I'm very bad at holding options. Even though I'm very sure of what's going to happen next, usually I'm still very bad at holding a bought options. I just don't like it. I don't like it. I don't feel comfortable holding them, which is why I usually don't play them that way. And if I do, it's usually for a very short trade because I just don't like holding them, because especially in a market like this, it can backfire very fast. Like all it takes is one day sometimes, you know, and I'd rather just not have that risk. You know what I mean? It's not my style. That's why I like to sell options on weakness for puts and sell calls on strength. That's kind of how I like to play personally. That's just my personal play style, if you will, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing, guys. So let me know what you think down below. All in all, hope you guys enjoyed this week's videos. We are finally playing out the thing we've been calling for the past about, you know, week or 2 weeks or whatever it's been now. And yeah, hopefully you guys have found them useful. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll of course see you guys back here on Monday for the new week. So until then, have a great weekend and peace.